Hello and welcome to This Week in X presented by Crushing Comics. We are here today to talk about Cable, issue number 9. It was out on the 24th of March, 2021, and I'm here with my very good friends from around the world from me, Fariha and Tyler, to talk about that issue. And we always come with a standard warning, there are going to be spoilers involved, not only because we're here to discuss this issue in depth, but because these characters have long, deep histories, and we're probably going to talk about those histories too. So this is your fair warning that this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion. For Cable number 9, as we always do, let's start with a lightning round of initial reactions, and then we'll get into the deep stuff, starting with Tyler.
Knowing that the series ends with number 12, I can't help but feel like this is a young Cable goodbye tour of sorts.
Oh no.
So, even though I do not know what will happen, but when I read it the second time, it just felt incredibly wistful, especially the scene with Rachel and Ileana. And for that and the beautiful nodal art, I give this a 3.75 recorders out of 5.
Fariha.
No, I agree with Tyler on that because it felt like, especially at the end, where the story is going, it seems like it's going to end up being a sacrificial thing. I feel like, I don't know, and it really hurt, because knowing that it's like we only have 3 more issues left, but then also knowing that we have 3 more issues potentially of this character, this version of the character, and I don't know, it just really made me go, oh, like I was really sad at the end of it. So, and I loved all the tour, he's going around and talking to different people. It really reminded me of Dennis Hopeless's Jean Grey, where the young
exactly.
Jean Grey,
that's what I thought too.
Going around and talking to everyone and trying to get help from them. It really reminded me of that. I'm like, oh, look at that, like mother, like son. So, and it was like young version of both of them, right? So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm sad that it's gonna be ending. So yeah.
Well, I would certainly echo those emotions. I think Tyler nailed it with the idea of wistful. I really truly felt that. But the other thing, since you've so beautifully stated that, both of you, is that we talk a lot about middle issues, middle chapters. Oh, that was a middle chapter. So here's a middle chapter, and it proves that they can be good comic books. Like, this was a middle chapter that had me compelled throughout the whole thing, referenced tons of great relationships, tons of great character history, almost as much character history as some whole series have referenced in this new X-Men era. And it left us with some really interesting questions, and it made us feel something. So I think to say that something's a middle chapter and it shouldn't have like goals or it shouldn't have to accomplish everything, that's a cop-out. Because here we have a middle chapter that it sounds like we all not only enjoyed, but like really made us feel emotions without being some slam bang action beat. And I think that's great. I think more comics should aspire to that. So we're going to take this somewhat sequentially, which is going to mean the sad part will come at the end, which hopefully will mean this whole discussion won't just be a bummer. We have some happier times to talk about first. Yeah. And this starts out, I did just say that middle chapters don't always have action, but this starts with a very fun, kind of silly James Bond parody kind of action beat, which is teaching AIM not to get too close to Krakoa, which on its surface is just not all that deep, right? AIM's nuclear submarine is a little too close. Somehow Cable and Esme insert themselves into it, mess it up, escape through a torpedo tube, and it's just visually fun. Noto does a great job with it. But there's something larger here, which is that Cable being used as a tool to protect Krakoa, Cable doing things on the behalf of Emma and Cyclops, Cable trading with Emma for some information that he doesn't want to go to Mom, Jean Grey, about, which means he also doesn't necessarily want to get Scott involved either. And also Esme kind of being her own person. So I thought that there was a lot more to this than just, ooh, James Bondy, submarine, whatever. But is that just me, or did you get that too? Tyler, you go first.
I agree that there is a lot of like relationships and some of it like 1 degree away, so it's like, we have seen the Summer Clan together for quite a while and quite a number of issues now, and now we are looking at the relationships between the Frost Clan and between Cable and Emma Frost. So But talking about the art, there's one small nitpick I have to sort of talk about. It's really something which I was like, it took me a while to realize that there was one panel where Isma and Nate is like running in the beekeeper suit, because I think Noodle's art really does not work very effectively when there's some action. So it is that page. It is page the very first page, the
They're
last
running?
panel. Yeah, the last panel. They're like
Oh
running.
yeah, I didn't get that at all.
I didn't get that at all until like, I mean, it took me like the second or the third time when I look at the panel, then I realized, oh, they're running away from the guy who says, hey, no go zone. So
Freya, what did you think about this opening action sequence and subsequent relationships?
So I really like that the cuckoos are becoming their own individual people. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, we have Phoebe, even though it is like, okay, it's because of a relationship, okay, fine. But the thing is like, it still like feels like I can separate them out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, at least Phoebe more so than Esme. But the thing is like, one thing is for sure that Cable doesn't feel about Esme as Queer does about Phoebe. So, one of them won out a little bit more than the other. And I loved that the whole caper thing, like, at the beginning, because AIM has always been kind of dumb. So it's like another dumb thing. And, also I also had the question, like, because when he was like, oh, can you help me out? I'm like, why aren't you asking Jean? But then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, someone else is also asking that question. So I think there was a lot of that. It was fun. I had fun with it. And, but my question is though, is like, who is saying weird things about Cable? Like Cable, everybody was scared of the old man. Nobody's scared of the kid. Then why aren't you saying your name? Anonymous patron at Green Lagoon.
Green Lagoon.
Who are you?
Just
Yeah, like, is anonymous
random, just some random mutant that like old Cable, like, beat up long time ago.
But the thing is like, he or she is still not saying their name, so it's like you're still scared, That means I think it's Vanisher, because I'm currently reading that era of X-Men. I'm like, it's Vanisher. It's got all his name all over it. So yeah, but it was fun, like a fun start.
I think this is the first time we see Scott and Emma in this new era spending time together
without the rest of their housemates.
Yeah, without other people coming in and things like that, and without Emma basically welding a whip at him when he's trying to have a Philly cheesesteak. That's the only time.
It's kind of interesting that like Cable has been the one book where we've seen the two of them together, which is interesting because during X of Swords, it was like became the Summers Family book, and we've seen a lot of Scott and Jean, but it also is giving us a lot of Scott and Emma. If you think about it, there's been like a few Scott and Emma moments in Cable, and we're really not getting it anywhere else, really. So it's just, I don't know. Duggan has really found a way to make this a home of character moments, and I think we're about to get into that with Cable's tour, and that's part of what's making me kind of preemptively miss it. Like, I don't necessarily, I can see reasons to bring back old guy Cable, but if we're going to lose this book that just has so much like little character stuff, I feel like we're going to go back to X Factor being the only book that's doing that, and like that's why I'm into the line now. Like, I feel like the original books weren't, and like the newer books are, and I don't want to lose that. But let's start into that tour now. So I think the first two are pretty commonplace. Maybe we could tackle them together, and then we'll tackle the more fun prior to. So the psychics can't track down Strife, so Cable goes to Madripoor because he's like, Wolverine owes me one, and just totally blows Wolverine's cover in this like very, very silly, Wolverine's up to some patch thing that's some part of what's happening in the Wolverine book probably, and he's like, you want me when there's something ready to slice, you've come and got me too early. And so then he goes back to Rachel, who it's kind of interesting because he's not going to get like more from Rachel than he was necessarily going to get psychically from Emma and everybody. But Rachel understands him better as his sister. And she also makes some other connections, and she helps him realize that like the mutant babies is maybe the thread to pull on, not just the scanning the world for Strife. So did the two of you, starting with Fariha, have any thoughts on this first two interactions with Wolverine, his sometimes combatant, and Rachel, his sister and sometimes partner in crime?
The Wolverine was very straight up Wolverine versus Wolverine Cable interaction. Part of me kind of wish that it was Deadpool. I don't know, because two of them
wouldn't have that been a little
together,
funnier too, like Cable and Deadpool? And
right. Yeah, because I was feeling that, okay, why go to Wolverine? I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of interaction between them other than whatever's in the current line. I don't like, but the thing is, that's one of the reasons I'm like, oh, I wish it was Deadpool. You don't want to say goodbye to him. So that felt a little off. And then with the Rachel one, it's also like, I don't necessarily know a lot about their relationship other than the familial relationship that they have. And so, but the thing is, I was just laughing that he totally stole her idea and then just passed it off as his to Magic. Like it's just the scene cut in the next one. It's like, hey, by the way, I've been thinking, it's like, no, you haven't been. Rachel told you this. So, but then that was also very much in line with Table. Is like, he's just going for it. It's
just
like
a teenager, basically.
Yeah. It's like, hey, listen, I thought about it, and maybe that's a way to impress Magic, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh yeah, Rachel told you, so this is the way, his way of doing that. Because I liked that.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I mean, I liked Rachel interaction just because how it cut to the next scene. Like it was just such a cool kind of like, hey, by the way, I had an idea. No, you didn't. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that like young Cable had to pants a waiter to get into the bar and then forgot that he has to do that and totally blew, patch cover. I'm like, come on, you just had to do that to get into the bar. What do you think Wolverine is doing there? Right. And so, but I mean, yeah, I agree. It's a little bit typical, and but it's kind of a funny beat, to get from one point to the other point. And do you feel like Nodo's art in this issue is a little bit more detailed than his usual? Like I think he put in a lot more in the background. Like in the bar, you can see that there's like bottles of different colors and shape and things like that.
I also think he's coloring a little bit differently. The colors just seem like a little bit more dimensional. They just have like a little bit more. It's even on the faces. They're not kind of as like blandly one color. Rachel's face when she's looking back at Cable and we see over his shoulder, it just has like different tones to it. And there's just more tone to her flesh. So I was really struck that there was a coloring difference. And I think it's just really interesting. Nodo has so many tools in his toolbox. And I don't think that any one of these issues don't look like they're a piece with one of the other issues, but then they definitely look distinct from each other as we see him doing different things. And I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
My only reaction really to these scenes is, I mean, the Wolverine scene, I kind of was like, did we even need those pages? I mean, it was fine. It's fine. But I just really like when Rachel gets played as a big sister. I really think it gives her the thing that her character sometimes lacks, which is like a little bit of purpose and wisdom based on the things that she's experienced in her time displaced life. That was why I really liked her in Classic Excalibur with Kitty. And it's why I get so excited and happy about Rachel here, because I just think it works really well when you use Rachel as like a peer, but also kind of like a mentor or somebody who's like, I know what that feels like, or let me help you like get to the bottom of those feelings. But this leads to the magic scene. Oh, go ahead, Tyler.
No, I said that's why she has to do a Prestige Black, White, and Red anthology series. There's so much you can do with her.
I think we all want to talk a little bit about this magic scene because it was funny. And people who don't like the goofy quality of Duggan or of Cable, I can imagine they were probably rolling their eyes here. But like, there's clearly Inferno tie-in with Stolen Babies, which we've reflected on already. And so the fact that Magic takes Cable to Limbo to like check in on Naturshe in his little isolation prison to interrogate him, it's just funny. Comics can just be funny sometimes. And I totally accept you if you're a person who thought this was a waste of pages, but I was tickled by it. And that's just who I am. Tyler, I think we were all tickled. I think we're all in the tickled category.
It is, here. And it's also a nice callback to X of Swords. Like the two of them were like testing Iska, right?
Yeah,
and like they
have this like buddy cop quality.
Yeah, so there is this. It's a nice callback to that scene, and then there is obviously, if we are talking about Limbo, that's the only person that he could go to, and who else can he go to? I mean, Richter.
Ew.
Now, Fariha, you've been reading quite a bit of Magic backstory lately because you're on a real tear through like 2008 through 2012. What did you think of this scene? And is to kind of take us off the topic for a little bit, is your conception of or opinion of Magic starting to change a little bit because you're reading so much more Magic material?
So I don't know who these people are who doesn't like goofy side of cable or table, and then like, who are you? Get yourself checked out.
That's okay. We love them
No.
too. Freya doesn't, but
Yeah, but we do.
yeah.
The rest of us
re-
do.
Yeah, rest of them do. I don't.
The rest of us do, not
yeah.
you.
Yeah, like no, I'm just saying that if cable is gone, like the series is ending, I say let's have a magic series.
Yes, finally do it.
Like, let's do it, because the thing is, it's actually really disheartening to see how many X-women get their own solo title and then it just goes away. Like, it's like, okay, we have Wolverine and Cable, why? Like, let's have magic, like, magic series. I love this, like, goof, like, a little bit happy-go-lucky magic, like she has all the stuff together, because I'm currently reading an era where she was like, I don't know what X-Men thinks about the Rasputin siblings. They just put them away. Like, they just, like, put them in jail at every given point that they get. And where I am in my reading right now, she's actually in a holding cell. And that's because she dared to save herself from all the crap with Limbo that she was stuck with. And so that's one of the reasons, like, I'm kind of I love, like, this magic, like, where she's like, unsure about, like, just very much together and teaching this teenage, like, new mutants how to fight and everything. I mean, I've been talking about, like, what's happening with this new mutant. I was happy to see that at least someone out there teaching them how to fight or something, keeping them busy. Like, I don't know, something.
Or using them as a punching bag.
Or that.
Like, I'm not you kids whenever I want.
Yeah, I know that. Like, she's just like she's like the community big sister. Like, she's just going around and getting stuff done, and I really enjoy it. And I enjoyed, like, how she has the demon, and you think that, oh, she's actually torturing that demon by, like, putting them, like, because from the era that I'm in right now, that would track with her, but no, she's actually torturing them with bad music. And it was just so funny and so wonderful, and just so, like, yeah, like, I just loved it. Like, I just love that this character's just having fun. She's just living life, having fun. Love it.
Yeah.
All the time.
And
let's have magic miniseries. Not miniseries, magic ongoing.
Regular, yeah, ongoing. What about Natasha saying that?
Yeah.
Please, I will tell you anything you want to hear. Just save me.
You think that it's some crazy torture, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's just bad music. I mean, it can be torture, but it's like a really bad music. And that's why it's like, I'll tell you anything. I don't know anything, but I'll tell you anything.
Have you actually heard Bad Recorder?
Oh, so the sound is so piercing.
Yeah, it's so screeching. It's like, oh my god.
I know what you're talking about. But I actually looked up the song, and that is, by the way, you should listen to the song, that 500 Miles.
Do you not know 500 Miles already? That was new news to you. Wow.
Before this.
What did you think?
Yeah, that was new. I mean, I'm not. Oh, it's so catchy. It's super catchy. It's stuck in my head. Like,
yeah, I mean, it is definitely one of these, like,
into
destructively catchy songs.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it
but
is.
then playing it in bad record, like, it's.
No, but it was also used really well in Zoe's Extraordinary playlist.
Oh, see, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it was done really well. I mean, it got me almost emotional for when they use that song, right? Yeah.
Well, now we're getting to, like, Crisis's Song Exploder, right? Because I would also host the show. The interesting thing about that song is it's actually this really yearning, romantic. I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more to be the man who walked 500 miles to fall down at your door. And
1,000 miles.
Right, 1,000 miles in total. Sorry. And but it's also, like, silly, and it's so upbeat. It's like one of these songs where, like, the tone of it kind of doesn't portray the thing that it's actually saying, and that tonal inconsistency is what makes it, like, such a goofy bop. It almost, I put it in the same category as, like, Breakfast at Tiffany's, where it's, like, wistful, but then it's silly, and the silliness and the wistfulness kind of, like, grinds against each other a little bit in your head. And in my mental image of these people in the recorders, she's handing a demon a recorder and playing them the song once, like, Fariha listened to it, and then saying, just try to get as close as you can get. But she's doing it for, like, each demon separately, so they're each, like, trying to go, like, like trying to, and then it's just the whole cacophonous chorus of them all trying to independently zero in on the melody. That is my version of the torture.
And she actually stood there for a little while and then listened to it, and then didn't listen to it, and then just walked out. It's like, yeah, Cyrus, you're right for what you did to me. But the thing is, no, that song is actually destructive in the way because the lyrics and the melody don't match up.
Right.
Because the lyrics is absolutely soul crushing, but the melody is so catchy, and you're like, what is happening? So I understand why that is used in the torture of a demon.
Now I just want to show we're after, now that we've introduced Fariha to X-Men, we introduced Fariha to a bunch of pop music songs that are like huge, but she hasn't heard yet, and we get to talk about them. Comment below if you want to hear, when you want us to introduce Fariha to more late 90s rock. Okay, so we come to the final, we've been talking for a while, but we've come to the final one, which is partially Cable beating the tar out of Wildside, but then partially Hope, his daughter, who's also older than him, coming to confront him about like, what is this about really? Like Wildside doesn't know anything. And you have to think that Hope is like taking her time. This is her lunch break from the 5, right? Hope doesn't get out too often, but she's like, guys, I need 10. Everybody take 10. And she goes out to be like, Cable, what are you doing? So what did you think about this father-daughter moment of Cable and Hope, Tyler?
Well, before that, I mean, that scene of him rising from the water.
Yeah, Apocalypse Now, right? Like,
is that, I mean, when you see that scene, do you think of it as Rambo First Blood, or do you think of Casino Royale?
Well, it's such a trope. Isn't it originally from Apocalypse Now?
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now too. So.
But it also is funny to me because it's like Wildside is drinking from the water as one does, and Cable is like coming out of the water, but it's not. It just doesn't. It's so silly.
When did he get into the water, and why
what
is
has he been doing? Where's his snorkel? How long has he been under the water? Has he just had like a TK tube up to the surface that he's been breathing?
And just waiting for Wildside to be like to come drink some water so that he can beat the crap out of him.
I mean, I thought it was funny. Like, it wasn't menacing. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I think it just shows that how bored he is and how he doesn't have any direction. He really doesn't know what to do about this whole Strife situation. So he's just biding his time and just going after anyone who is like, hey, do you know Strife? Do you know Strife? Anyone? Like,
Cable is coming to him because he has always been part of the Mutant Liberation Front, which is ran by Strife. So,
and it definitely, it was an interesting beat that we have not gotten too much on Krakoa, and I think some fans would like if we got more because they're surly about it, which is that Cable almost like inherits the opinion that past Cable would have had. He's like, well, let's go hunt down some of those MFers, right? And he immediately goes and corners Wildside, where like it's supposed to be that everybody's equal on this island and everybody got a fresh start or whatever. But like as soon as the chips are down and something's wrong, Cable's gonna go beat up somebody from the MLF, which is an interesting beat that we haven't seen too much in this Krakoan era. Where like immediately let's go and distrust this villain as soon as things get tough. We've seen it with Omega Red. I don't feel like we've seen it too many other places.
Well, we did see the Marauders confront Grey Crow right in the beginning of Hellions.
True.
So there's one beat there. Yeah. So I mean,
and for a similar way, right? Like you were part of this historical Marauders that went around and killed people. Like that, you can't. You see that some of the mutants like can't give up this past because they were really hurt by these people, and some of these people were like genocidal maniacs.
Yeah, I'm reading some of those, and yeah, justifiably so. Like let's not forgive Vanisher just yet. Like. I read that too. And while we're at it, let's not forgive Cyclops either. Boom Boom, Hellion, and Pixie. I read that too.
Well, okay. At the risk of us just spiraling out here.
Hope.
The Hope conversation. Is there anything to say about this conversation with Hope?
Fariha is also reading Hope right now.
I am! And that's what I was like, I wish this came out like a little later because I'm currently in the Messiah War era. Like, that's where I am right now. So I'm like, well, damn, like this is the whole time that they're running around, he's running around with Hope and all that. But yeah, I think like even though that I know that their relationship, and from that point of view, it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting that now he's younger than her, and then there's a little bit of dynamic shift in the relationship. But I think it was more interesting to see, like, we now got a little bit more in the resurrection protocol. Like there is more more lore got attached to it about like what to do with the duplicates. A problem only X-Men has. Like no one else has that problem. Only X-Men has this problem. It's like we have clones, we have people that are different timeline. Yeah, we're not gonna bring any of them back. Well, Gabby will have something to say about that. It actually says clone very specifically. Like, so which is like, But Esma is okay because their mom is in the
It has to do with their power,
like the
so
cuckoos
it's
are
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cuckoos are okay though, because mom's in quiet council.
I mean, I
thought
feel
that
like
was interesting.
I feel like this beat has been playing in many different books right now. I mean, I think it might be one of the things that might come up in the gala. So this whole thing about the dupes and the alternate universe person, whatever, that kind of thing. But but back to this. I mean, I kind of like the role reversal here, where Hope is a little bit more experienced, and Hope's experience is learned from a future older Cable, and he's like trying to mash. It's well, I don't know. It's timey-wimey, It's kind of a mess.
Timey-wimey. They were involved in that.
Yeah, but I mean, I like it. And truthfully, though, I actually forgot about the relationship between Cable and Hope until Hope came on. I was like, oh yeah, of course. You can't do a goodbye tour without saying goodbye to Hope.
Well, we talked about a little bit in Sword last week, this idea of like who is Hope's parental figure when Cable is a teen, because it came up in that.
True.
It's interesting to think about if we should read this as happening before or after those Sword issues, because it's like, where does King in Black fit in? Because this whole we need the other guy back beat, I think, plays a little bit differently if it comes after also Cable's failure to adequately defend the island and in fact becoming a vessel of the enemy in King of Black.
No, I agree.
But that's what I thought, though. That's what I thought, that this is coming directly after Sword 4, because the way he's really unsettled right now.
I think it has to. I think we've got to read that there was a break after the last issue and that he's like enjoying a little breather with Cyclops on the yacht with Emma after all of that. Like, I think we could probably assume King in Black happened between these two issues of Cable. I think.
Yeah.
So final round here on that Hope conversation. I mean, it ends on this beat. We both need the other guy back. Do they? Do we?
No.
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 I want Table.
I kind of want to keep Table. I can't believe I'm saying this after the past 3 years, but I kind of want to keep him around.
When he first appeared in Decimation, I was like, why? Why do we need another young Cable who acts the same way as old Cable? But when this series started, like, it is very obvious that this team, Table is different from, Obo or whatever he calls that.
And here's the thing. I think that to insert, I like old Cable. I'm a 90s fan. I have a lot of affinity for him. But I think to insert him into this Krakoan status quo doesn't add anything. He's this very like ends justify the means hunter dude, and we're getting that from the Wolverine book. It makes him older than Scott again, which kind of like undermines some of the Scott aspects of him being a leader and saying, hey, I'm going to lead.
Oh, that's good then.
Now. But then what? Like, should Cable be on the Quiet Council? Like, and then Cable has even more history with Apocalypse than the Teen Cable does. It just feels like Teen Cable gives us so many more moments. It gives us more somebody else for people to mentor. It lets Cyclops be a dad. It lets Rachel be a big sister. It just feels like Teen Cable gives us more for other characters to do. Plus, with old Cable, like, what are you going to do with him romantically? Like, then he gets like roped in with Domino again. Like, it just really feels like there's less story possibilities with old Cable. And I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, occasional as it may be. And I think I was wrong to be upset to take old Cable off the board. I think there's more storytelling possibilities with young Cable.
But it depends on which Cable. I mean, it's definitely older Cable, but at which point are they plucking him back?
Right. Maybe not as elderly. Who knows?
Yeah. So, but then, the way he's drawn in in the book here, he does look a little bit on the older side. So I was just wondering, like, at which point, because from the conversation, it really seems to imply that, yeah, old Cable is dead now, but he's a time traveler. We can plug him back from any time period, that we can
Anytime
find
we
him.
backed him up, anytime he
Yeah, that we
crossed
can
through
find
the
him,
present.
whatever
Yeah.
we can find him, right? So I can jump to this time stream knowing that he's going to be there, and then bring him back.
Oh, and just bring a
forward.
live one, like not even
Yeah.
have to use the resurrection protocols.
Yeah, so not even have to use that,
Interesting.
I think. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we have
And
3 issues left to see if he comes back temporarily. Maybe they just need him to resolve this strike thing, or
Yeah.
permanently.
Why not just have both of them around?
Maybe that
Why
could be
not?
where we're
Maybe.
going to.
Yeah.
Why not
Why
have
not
Gina and
go?
Madeline Breyer?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that I agree with. Girl
Okay.
got real bad.
And then just
Like,
messed up
yeah,
the
we agree
whole
with
like Jean, Emma, Cyclops.
Let's
with,
make
like,
it a
Maddie.
pentagram. Like it
Yeah,
a
and then you have
make it a
Alex.
pentagram. Like ugh.
And you have
How
poor
do you-
Alex.
Oh yeah.
All right.
that
Well,
too.
before we get into any
Oh,
more
wow,
geometry,
okay.
I have to say that that's the end. This has been our discussion of Cable number 9. We're interested to hear what you have to say. Do you prefer teen Cable, old Cable? Do you think we should have neither, both? Where do you land, and where did this ending leave you feeling? If you want to see our coverage of other X-Men issues, just look elsewhere on the channel. We talk about them all. And until we see you again, the whole reason we get together and do this is because as fun as it is to read these issues by ourselves, it's way more fun to experience them together. And that is why, Fariha.
X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. So on behalf of myself, Tyler, and Fariha, thank you so much for being a part of another week of This Week in X, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.